Special announcement, this Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be releasing the second installment of our Study Hall series. Study Hall will air exclusively on our audio outlets and our micro clips designed for specific areas of education. So make sure you subscribe to all of our audio outlets and tune in this Sunday for the second edition of Study Hall. Earners, what's going on? The summer is coming to an end and the price of EYL University is going up. So you guys have until August 28th to get 40% off of the current price before the price goes up. EYL University includes 70 past webinars, weekly webinars, access to Market Monday Zoom for question and answers, access to our movie club, access to our book club, access to our private investment Facebook group, and access to the bi-weekly real estate conference calls with MG, the mortgage guy. So for all of that, 40% off promo code is SUMMER, valid to the end of the summer, August 28th. Take advantage now. Go to EYLUniversity.com and enter the code SUMMER for 40% off right now. Let's go.
My graduates from my school being Forbes, bag drop.
Bag drop.
A mic drop, bag drop.
Bag drop. All right, guys, welcome back. Another virtual episode edition.
Yeah, man.
EYL.
Legends at it now.
Yeah, quarantine edition. So we got a very dope episode. We're going to highlight a very impressive entrepreneur, Ladun Thompson. You probably saw his shirts, T-shirts, hoodies worn by a variety of different celebrities. Mainly Envy. A lot of people watch The Breakfast Club. I know he wears it a lot. And it's called My God versus My Enemies. That's the name of the most popular shirt.
Yeah.
But the clothing brand itself is called Body of God clothing line.
Yep.
So Ladun, shout out to our guy Mike. Mike really hooked this up. He's actually been talking about it for a while.
Yeah, definitely.
But
for sure.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be on here, man. Now we definitely probably played tag at some point last year. But, we get caught up. But, everything is timing, man. So.
Yeah, everything happens when it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, the world slowed down, so it's perfect timing.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me on here.
Nah, for sure. So, this is an interesting conversation because, we like to highlight entrepreneurs and the clothing business is something that we've touched on before, but there's always room to cover it more. We haven't really covered it in depth. And especially from the merch standpoint, as far as hoodies, T-shirts, because these are simplified items that, like, when most people start a clothing brand, that's what they start with. T-shirts, hoodies, sweatsuits, stuff like that. Like, we Earn Your Leisure.
That's what I'm thinking, like, that's us.
That's what we have, right? So it's like, this is something that you don't have to have a factory to do. You don't have to have. You don't have to go to FIT or one of these colleges to figure this out. But it's something that's also difficult as well. It's not easy, and especially to launch it on a high level and to have celebrities wearing it and to kind of go viral online and things of that nature.
I think one of the most important things you need is vision and a plan, and you definitely have both of them. So I'm excited for the world to hear about it.
Yeah. So this is something that I think is going to be a lot of value to a lot of people, and whether you're in the clothing business or not.
I'm sure you were inspired by a lot of things. Number one, there was an eviction process that kind of got in the way of some things, and you battled a few breakups. You want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah, we can get into that.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
So let's talk about that. So I was in a relationship at that time, and the person I was in a relationship with, and still got no animosity. We don't speak or anything like that, but it was just more of a situation where, like, it's a season. You learn that, like, you can be with somebody and, think that that's going to be forever. But you also, what I learned from that situation is the minute you start putting people over God has to be first in everything you do. You know what I mean? And I learned that, like, in Christianity, we know there's this verse in the Bible, but we serve a jealous God. Like, you know what I mean? The minute you put somebody over God is going to let you know. He's going to give you an opportunity, and you'll hear it and you'll see it. And, sometimes you call them red flags. those are the things that when God shows you certain things and he says, look, I need you to separate and be more focused on me. And at that point, I was like, nah, I'm not separating, even though I've seen certain things that showed me that, like, at this point, this season with this person was over. So now after God has told you what you need to do and you don't do it, the next thing is God is going to do it and it's going to hurt. So there's a quote that I've been living by this like last couple weeks, which is, if you were obedient when God first put it on your heart, it wouldn't feel like much of a sacrifice. You know what I mean? And that's with anything we do. Like when we think about like even you guys, as you started this amazing, I want to call it a podcast, but it's bigger than that. It's a movement. I think with you guys even starting that, there were times when you think back to when you felt like you should have made the move. Just do. You know what I mean? You just have to do without really overthinking things. At times, in that time when I was in that relationship, I definitely realized that, like, you know, once you start once you're making more deposits into a person, place, thing, and they're making more withdrawals than deposits with you, then it's not a balanced friendship, relationship, anything. So it just got to a point that person walked away from the relationship. You know what I mean? And, you know, it's no shade to it. I understand things happen and I had to figure it out. But I was blown away by this because I had invested so much into this person and relationship that when that occurred, I didn't know what to do next. So what did I do? Just sat and got depressed. I really felt I stayed in the house. I didn't work. I really was like, you know what? It was never a point that I really said like, yo, I'm going to kill myself. But I can see where people, when they deal with these, that thought bounces through your head because you're just like, yo, life sucks. Like this was not part of the plan. Like, and then you're watching this person thrive. And then you're like, and on top of that, you still have to interact with that person because we have so many mutual friends. Then you're playing it cool and you're seeing them. You're saying, hey, what's up? And they're happy and celebrated. And you're like, I'm dying over here.
Why are you so good?
One carton of milk in the refrigerator because you left me. So you're sitting there and you're really like, yo. And it's not really, at the end of the day, it's seasons sometimes. Like, you know what I mean? I never fault that person for what happened because, you know, everything's a season and you have to understand it. Sometimes, you know, like I said, God will always give you the opportunity to know when a season is over. Now, if you don't move, if you don't have the I would call it the relational intelligence that tells you when it's time to separate from certain things, places, or people, then when it does happen, you're going to be flat on your face. So that time I had to, you know, I was in an apartment and just I wasn't working really. I actually had started working at Amazon at that time, to be honest. That was another job that I did, which was cool at the time, but it wasn't cool enough to pay all the bills. Because once I started Amazon, I was already 3 months behind on rent, and I was just trying, but I wasn't really doing that out of passion. I was just like working because I was just like, all right, I gotta eat. You know what I mean? And at that point in time, I'm really proving to my parents, you didn't go to law school, this is what you get. So I'm like, no, you know what? I'm definitely not going back home. So I had to even go through the process of going back. Finally, I just got to the point when I came outside, car was gone. I was like, you know what? I'm not sitting in this anymore.
Wait, they repoed the vehicle or this was like New Jersey Drive?
Nah, they took the car. I came outside and it was an empty spot. I was like, was I drunk last night? Did I park somewhere else? Walking around, the car is gone. You know what I mean? I was tight because I had a couple fly sneakers in there too and everything, man. I really even tried to just get those back at that point. But in that space, the only thing I was left with at that time was my faith. And being in that time that I was just dealing with, like being, I had to focus on God a little bit more. I was in church a lot more. I was in church on Sunday. I was in Bible study on Tuesday. I was in midday word on Thursday. I was, it gives you an opportunity to but it does give you an opportunity to focus on what's more important. So in that time, I had to be faithful over little things so that God can make you a master of many things. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like what really happened is that I started, doing working at a lot of homeless shelters. Like I just felt the need to be giving back. You know what I mean? That's what I felt like I heard God say, you know what I mean? Give back. I would have little money and somebody would ask me for money and I would just be like, I would give it. And it just got to the point that like in that process, like the idea came to me that I wanted to create a clothing line. Like first it was really like, I can use this to bring in some type of finances. You know what I mean? It's some additional money. But in the same token, it was like I wanted a brand that really gave people overall an opportunity to talk about God. Because I feel like now in this day and age, it's so hard to have conversations about God. Having a conversation about God nowadays, like having a conversation or like around November and asking somebody who they're voting for. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's a crazy conversation to have. Even in this day, you would think that everybody would just be like, I'm not voting for Trump. But at this time, now we're like, let's hold a vote. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not sure. I'm not voting. It doesn't matter. Some people are saying it doesn't matter to them. But like in that same token, when it came to talking about God, it's a tough topic because people are very politically correct when it comes to talking about faith.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that because that's what they always say. Never talk about politics or religion. And you just did both of those. So, I have no fear. I have no fear talking about that. Politics, I'm probably more like liable to like, and I've already pulled the cat out the bag on that one. But I do feel like, I understand how touchy that topic is because I really, that's one of the things I don't know. Like, we were talking about, I think prior to this, we had mentioned the power of I don't know. But we'll get into that also. Like, that's why, for me, I don't really talk about politics. I just know, like, what I feel is right and what I feel is wrong. But so I wanted to start a brand that specifically focused on giving people an opportunity to talk about God without actually ever having to open your mouth. You know what I mean? So, that's when My God versus My Enemies came about. You know what I mean? And My God versus My Enemies, really, my enemies at the time when I started that was like, I didn't have physical enemies. I felt like I get love from everybody that's from my area, whether it's New York, Jersey, whatever. I get a lot of love. But the biggest things my enemies was dealing with, like mental health. I realized how much of an issue that was. Like when people deal with depression and people deal with anxiety, I started to learn about those things. And I'm like, it's not a myth. It's just not. I used to hear about it and I used to like, nah, people tripping. She's having an anxiety attack. She tripping. Yeah. You know what I mean? I said, or even like dealing with functional bipolar people. You know what I mean? Like I have friends that I had to find out that they're functionally bipolar. I'd be like, yo, that's crazy. Like I would leave my kid with you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's finding out these things. And so my enemies at that time, I felt like without God, I would have never been able to battle those, deal with those things. So like you learn that, depression is a thing. It's something that if you don't deal with, it can overtake your mind, spirit. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like where the first design, which was My God versus My Enemies, came about. And it's still the main design because it's what people like focus on, like that particular like statement, no matter where you go, if you're wearing it, if you're walking down the street and you have a My God versus My Enemies hoodie or sweatshirt on, someone's going to say to you, like either you have an older black lady who's going to say, yes, Jesus, God. Well, let me ask you that because that actually brings an interesting point because in the next segment, what we're going to do next is going to the business behind the clothing brand. But so we haven't spoke about religion or Earn Your Leisure. We invited a big time pastor on. We're still waiting on that. Accept the invitation.
Open invite.
But we've kind of stayed away from religion. It's a very touchy topic. But the thing about it is that it's interesting, especially from a business standpoint, because it's a thin line, right? And it's like Kanye, right? When he put the not Jesus Walk. What's his last album? Yeah. Jesus is king. Jesus is king.
Born.
Jesus King.
Jesus is king.
Yeah, both of those.
So yeah, he put.
It's 2 albums. Yeah.
Is it?
So
Okay.
a lot of people didn't know that there was a separate album that dropped in December that was called Jesus is Born. Jesus is King is the first one that came out. Jesus is Born is the one everybody was really expecting, where it would be like a whole bunch of choir and singing, and not really. It's probably like 7% Kanye and mostly like choir singing.
That's what he should have did.
Yeah,
that's what
I went to see that, man. Powerful.
Yeah, well, different.
Yeah, that's a powerful thing.
Shout out to Kanye. Shout out to Kanye. So, but he got a lot of pushback because people felt like, all right, are you capitalizing off of faith? Are you profiting off of religion? And then, it's always been a debate with pastors, and especially like big time pastors. It's a very thin line. But people are very passionate about their religion, right? And I feel like what better way to promote religion and what you believe in than to wear it? So to me, it makes sense. But were you ever conflict? Did you ever get any pushback within the religious community as like, how do you feel about that?
Oh man, that's a topic in itself. That at one point for me, that once I had gotten to a certain space, that created anxiety for me. Like the conversation of it, like, because you just never know what angles someone is coming at you on when they talk about like the brand. So I'm a Christian, you know what I mean? That's who I am. Very solid in my faith. But if you check out my bio, it's unconventional Christian. You know what I mean? And I get pushback from that. Like I get 900 DMs that says, "Excuse me, I would like for you to detail to me what unconventional."
All the theologists have come to speak to you.
Yes, I love God and I believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Yes, but I also believe I am very honoring of the fact that I believe all faiths do serve one God. Yeah. I'm not here to break that down in detail because I can't tell you and I can explain to somebody why I believe I can't explain to you why your God and my God is the same, but more importantly, I can tell you that I know that God is love, right? That's what I feel like. God is equal to love. Mm-hmm. And, when people always talk about love changing the world, that's when I think about that. And more importantly, like, that's why for me, the brand is so important to me because I know that like God is love and love is the one thing needed to change the world. So when I have these conversations and people talk to me and they're asking me like, so when I wear your brand, am I wearing it as a Christian? Am I wearing it? Is it against you're a Christian? Does that mean me as a Muslim or me as an atheist? Does this mean that I'm representing the Christian faith? No, I'm like, when the first thing is my God in that sense, when you talk about this particular brand, when you talk about this item right here, like the God it's the God within you. You know what I mean? Like, so when somebody sings the God within you is what's against your enemies. So like, I try not to get into these big battles of who and what God we serve, because that's where I feel like a lot of people lose people because their biggest focus is religion, not relationships. Yeah. You know what I mean? For me, it's creating relationships with people and having conversations with people and understanding that we are all different in every sense. If I'm trying to put a label on who every single person is, that's like division. You know what I mean? Like, I meet a Muslim person. I'm to this day, like, one of the biggest things I started talking about with people like now is like, I want to start reading the Quran because it's important to be knowledgeable, to be able to have these conversations with people. I'm not trying to press religion on anyone. I do love God and I love Jesus Christ, and that's who I am. But when it comes to the brand, it's more about unity more than anything else. Yeah. It's more about trying to bring people together. You know what I mean? It's so much division in our communities and just as a whole that like we spend so much time trying to, label people instead of like figuring out how we can be labeled as one. You know what I mean? We're so divided. So that's why, like, for me, I try not to make it about religion. Like, you know what I mean? I remember I was on Sister Circle TV and I went in there and I had like the noodle legs because my biggest fear was like, oh my God, they're going to ask me what God do you serve? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I just know for a fact I've let God lead me into all these situations. Even when I came on here, one of the biggest things that I said was like, God, you stand up and I sit down. You know what I mean? Because this is not about me. And it's like, I know, like you said, you brought up the fact that people worry about profit and people worrying about money and making money off. Like the biggest thing that people will always see and say about this brand is that we're always giving back. You know what I mean? It's like we're constantly in places where we're sending cash apps to people during this pandemic from the brand because we're trying to like help people. We know how, like, I try not to hold on to anything, whether it's money, whether it's the clothing, I give it away. That's the one thing that got me where I am now, is giving it away. You know what I mean?
I think it's important to promote what you believe in too. Like I said, like, I mean, I noticed that it's like, my God, that could be anything. Mm-hmm. You could be Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, whatever. And also, I mean, I personally don't see anything wrong with it, because it's like, if you're going to wear something, why not wear something and promote something? You could be wearing something with, curses on it and a whole bunch, not to say, to each his own, but you're going to promote something when you're wearing it.
I think the dopest thing about it, you know what I mean, is the fact that you're inviting people into knowing God. You know what I'm saying? Like it like you said, it's really not specific. It's just kind of a conversation starter. So imagine now, like, when you walk into a church and it's my God versus my enemies with a hoodie on. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. where we've been raised, it's like, yo, you got to be suited and booted with your Sunday best. And it's like, nah, I'm coming as I am, and I'm coming with this message. Because the first thing we look at in our community, we know for sure, and that's the reason why we thought assets over liabilities would be the perfect model, is because we look at what we have on. It's just natural. Before we get to know a person's name, before we get to know their background, what are you wearing? And when you come through with that, it's like, okay, now we have a conversation.
There you have it. So in the next segment, we're going to go into the business 101 behind the brand and how it launched off. All right, so starting the clothing line, right? The first thing I want to ask you is, because it reminds me of like how we started, like the assets over liabilities. Yep. So when we did the assets over liabilities, we was playing around with different stuff, like different slogans of like, because we knew we have Earn Your Leisure, and we want to have a merch brand that actually represents Earn Your Leisure, right? So I forgot what we came up. We was coming up with a bunch of different ideas.
10 joints.
So me and Mike was going back and forth, and I'm like, assets over liabilities. And he's like, all right. So then he had like a mock-up drawing, and I'm like, nah, I want to like this, assets with the line, and then in the middle of the line over, and then on the bottom of that, liability. So it's like assets over liabilities, and then a line, and it's literally showing it. So he didn't really like the idea at first. He's like, nah, it should be this way, but long story short, we agreed on it, and it's been a hit. And it's actually crazy, because now people has actually stole the idea. Good thing we got a trademark. Yeah. We sent letters out. So shame on you if you've done that.
Yeah, but that's part of your story.
We're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
So how did you? All right. So you told us the story about getting more into your religion, and you decided that you wanted to kind of have God involved in the brand. So how did the idea, my God versus my enemies, and how did you decide? Because I don't think people understand, like, how you place something is extremely important. If it was assets over liabilities, but it was not placed how it is, like the division sign, it wouldn't have been as popular as it's been. So your slogan is round. So how did you come about like actually making that visually look like that? And like, was it a lot of going back and forth in your head, or like what was the process?
Nah, you know what? This very probably like I might like kick myself in the butt for saying this, having this conversation. But like at the time, my God versus my enemies was like the phrase was what I came up with. But at the time, we were dealing with I had a graphic designer send me a few mock-ups, and then of how my God versus my enemies would be. And the one thing that I didn't like about it was that the my God and my enemies were the same size. So it to me said that my enemies was equal to God. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I wanted to make sure I kind of had them reduce the font, and then also what was very popular at the time that you guys do know is like Detroit versus everybody. They had that design, and but the one thing you learn in business wise is like, so we went with the My Guy versus My Enemy with the same font, but just with we did a small change in it because the enemy's smaller, and we ended up having to deal with a lot of headache from people from Detroit. It was like,
oh, I thought you stole
Detroit versus everybody. Y'all stole that. It was like, no, there's New York versus everybody.
Our brother Wallow got a couple of those joints.
Yeah, Philly versus everybody.
Nobody had a trademark on any of those things.
Ooh.
Because you have to. This is where you learn the business. Now, this is the part where, for me, it's something I have conversations with people about. Is just learning, like before you put out. People always hit me like, "Yo, I have this design." I'm like, "Nope, don't want to hear it. Let's sign this NDA first, and then we can have a conversation." Because no one's gonna say I stole your idea. You know what I mean? Anything. People always come with me ideas that they think is dope for my brand or even for their brand. But if it's anything faith-based, I don't want to have a conversation about it without an NDA, because these are stuff that you learn.
Non-disclosure agreement. Can you talk about that a little bit for somebody that might not know what an NDA is?
It's just protective of both parties. You have a conversation, you detail it, small words, what the conversation is about, and just protects you. You know what I mean? Because, I've definitely had conversations with people. Like somebody will come to me and say, "Yo, you should come out with a God is good shirt," and I'm like, I have one that says God is good, and we scratched out the good and put God is great. But it's like, when you put that out, they're like, "Yo, I told you about that, right?" I'm like,
"Yo, that was mine."
God is good is a very common phrase. So the NDA and then people start talking about you behind your back, like, "Nah, I told him that design, and I see everybody wearing. He ain't cut me. He should have gave me some bread." I'm like, "Nah, we not gonna do that." Like, you know what I mean? But I had to learn that the hard way, though. Like, you know what I mean? The way I learned that the hard way is just having to hear people tell me ideas. I was always open my ears to people talking to me about different ideas, but now you just have to be protective of how you allow people to, engage with you when it comes to business. You can't, that's one thing I'm not, you're not just a party promoter. You're not just an actor anymore. You're a businessman. And that's just like something I had to learn as far as business. You have to move very business-like, or else people will treat you like a peasant.
So, all right. So you start that. You get a little backlash from the Detroit community. Shout out to Detroit.
What up, dog?
Shout out to Detroit, man. I got love for y'all.
So you trademark. Do you trademark that?
Yeah, I trade My Guy versus My Enemies.
And you trademarked it for merch. That's something that we talked about a while ago. So a lot of people don't realize, like, when you trademark something, you can trademark it for a variety of different things. Like, so it's for media, it's for apparel, it's for, radio. Like, so some things is you have it trademarked for one or two, but you don't trademark it for like 30 different things.
Right. And different countries, right? So we can do this in the US, but somebody in France might say, "Yo, we're going to do it here." So not only do you have to do it in the US, but you have to do it in almost
it's a whole process.
A lot of countries. Like, if you want to keep yourself protected, which it's tough and it's expensive.
So you
It's tough and it's expensive. I learned the hard way. I learned that the hard way too.
Yeah. I heard that did you put out the merch before trademarking it? Because I heard that.
I put out the merch before trademarking. And this is where I always lean into, and I talk to people about, like, God can't bless you until you're ready. Like, you know what I mean? And I was moving before God because I had the design, but I was like, I should go for this trademark. I'm like, nah, this is getting hot. Wait, I need to put this out now. I need to get this money. Man, the process after that, because once I put it out, it was such a catchy joint. And when Envy started wearing it a lot on the Breakfast Club, then people just was making it on Amazon. They was making it in different fonts. They was making it in different designs. And so when I did file for a trademark, it was like, yo, we see this everywhere already. Somebody's selling on Amazon. Now you have to go through this whole process that costs thousands of dollars. Like, I literally can say we spent maybe $20,000 in trademarking fees.
Whew. So what was the process that you had to go through?
I went through a law firm.
So I mean, to trademark it, or to get the other people to stop selling
like
it?
cease and desist type stuff?
Like what cost?
Both. So let me start with I started with the trademark process. I started with a law firm. Something I will never recommend to anyone to go through a law firm. Instead, you can find you a specific trademark lawyer that can take the time and has the focus, because and there are trademark lawyers that have big clients and a lot going on. It's not a hard process for somebody who's into trademarking. What you do have to find somebody at the time that possibly can put the time and focus into your specific brand, because people will bill you for hours. Like, I literally did not know though. Like, I was just like hopping on a call. I'm like, I hit the lawyer email. Can we hop on a call on Tuesday at 4:00? I'm like, cool. Next thing you know, we're on a call for 2 hours. And next thing I know, at the end of the month, I look at the bill. It's like 2 hours having a conversation with your lawyer, $4,000. I'm like, what? It's like, they're asking you these questions that you don't realize they're billing you for every single thing. So we're going to file for this particular item, and we're going to make sure that we're able to use it on hats, sweatsuits, socks, and these different types of patents. And I'm like, sure, no problem. Now they're charging you for every single thing that they're filing for. But that whole process, $20,000 down the drain, because the process started and the lawyer just got so busy because he was never really getting back to me. I had to follow up. And this is where, like, when I talk about advising people about something like this, find you a trademark lawyer that specify on this, like, literally deal with you one-on-one. This person is a lawyer who's probably working during the day doing big corporations, but they're also at home, handling small businesses. You know what I mean? It's not hard to find. If you really look for a small business trademark lawyer, they're out there. And this is the part, like, I told you about the I don't know. That's if you don't know, you post it in your story, you'll get so many feedbacks. Like, I tell people all the time, I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I have no problem saying I don't know if I don't understand or know something or know someone. It doesn't take me much. I'll post something and say, yo, anybody got a plug to this person? Why? Because, it just helps facilitate it faster.
So what was the process to get people to stop selling it?
That process, the cease and desist. I mean, you know what? Teamwork. That was the biggest thing. Now, once you get to a certain point and your brand is moving, you have a lot of things in place. Now, you realize that you have to focus your energy on, making sure you don't focus your energy on too many of the little things by yourself. That's why you get people around you that are stronger. So at first, I was sending these emails. I would sit up to 6 a.m, sending the cease and desist out myself. I'd have the lawyer, I'd have the letter. At that point, I was getting the letter from my lawyer because they were still trying to file it for me. That's with the big firm. And they would still give me, since the thing was in process, you could still send cease and desists. So I was sending cease and desist to different people and companies. But now it's like, yo, you see somebody with a my guy versus my enemy shirt that's bedazzled with, like, you're like, where you get that from? They're like, I got that from Brooklyn at King. I think it's, what is it, Kingsbridge Mall? Is that
Brooklyn? Keep on taking it, man. Brooklyn, keep on taking it.
Yo, Kings Plaza, right? Kings Plaza.
It's so much, but then it got to the point that I realized, like, as long as I can deal with the online stuff, I'm not. To be honest, these foot traffickers, it's still more awareness to the brand. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sitting here, like, if I spent so much time, I realized after a while, I spent so much time and focus on trying to send cease and desist and deal with this, it takes away from the brand, which is really the goal. Like, you're spending all this money on doing that when really, I mean, it's important to do, but it's also important to spend time on making sure everything is aligned within your brand.
Yeah, and that's something that people aren't aware of. You can send cease and desist letters even if you don't have the official trademark yet, if it's in process, if it's pending.
Once it's in process, you send that email, and people automatically gonna take it down. They see it. They don't want to get sued. If the wording is right, if it sounds threatening enough, I've gotten this. Speaking of, like, when I used to take pictures, I've gotten a cease and desist because I took a picture of Jay-Z at this bowling event, and, like, I got a cease and desist from his lawyer. We're gonna sue you. It's $20,000. I deleted that thing so fast.
And everybody out there stealing ideas, shame on you.
Shall remain anonymous.
Shame on you, man.
Shall remain anonymous.
On y'all.
Shame, man. Be original. All right, so what's the process to actually manufacture the merch though? Because this is something that like us, we use online, Printful, but now we're kind of switching that to actually getting physical merch. A, it's a higher profit margin, and B, you have control over like shipping. You don't gotta wait for somebody, a third party, to ship it for you.
That's kind of the dilemma now. It's like a pandemic has delayed everything, so it's now like a month behind. Where if we could have just shipped it out ourselves, we saved the time and the headache from people like, hey, where's the merch?
But
we can put it out.
The problem with that is that now you got to spend the money up front.
Exactly.
And now you got to warehouse it. So now you got to turn your living room into a warehouse with boxes of hoodies.
Yeah. I think, and the crazy, I'm glad you went right there, because when I was looking, I'm like listening to the story, reading about your story, and you're like, what are some of the downfalls? You got stuck with a bag of merch, right? Let's get into that a little bit.
Yeah.
So which part, where you want me to start from?
How you got, learning about being left with the abundance of inventory.
Yeah, that's that's just part of the game, man. You gotta you live and you learn, and then you figure out like how to deal with those situations. Like, I've definitely, even before this pandemic, I didn't operate off faith in that time, because I was probably one of my friends that was in a group chat, like sending all these like fear messages, like, yo, go food shopping for the next 9 weeks.
Oh, were you one of the people that said, my cousin, I just got word, my cousin works at the Pentagon.
I
like,
screenshot that if it was,
I'm like, how many black people have family members with 7 clearances at Pentagon? Like, if I had one more person, like, I just got a word from my cousin that works in
4 weeks. Shout out to Clarence at the Pentagon, though.
Bird, shout out to Clarence. I might have screenshotted it, but I definitely had people like, yo, they gonna have martial law.
Yo, that was at the end of the message.
Did you see that movie with Bruce Willis and Denzel Washington? They're like, yo. So I'm like, yo, just go shopping, food shopping. I'm wilding. At that point now, my brain is like, hold up. You just ordered all this. You just ordered all these hoodies, and I should wait. I went to the printer. I said, don't print yet. Because at least worst case scenario, you can always ship it back to the wholesale company you purchased it from. They're gonna charge you a repackaging fee versus actually printing all these hoodies and stuff like that, and then you don't get it till after the pandemic is over, and now you're stuck with all this merch. So I didn't operate off faith, but what I learned in this pandemic, people are still shopping. Mm-hmm. People are still buying. I bought a hoodie. I'm not going to say how much it cost, supporting another brand, but I bought it, and where was I wearing it to? But it's like, there's no real determination on like when this thing is going to be over. But, I think a lot of people that are maybe essential workers that are still working from home, like, their income didn't actually change. They're just spending less money outside while moving. So you end up engaging in online shopping. It's a lot of online shopping going on right now. So, but when I first started, like for me, because I know you did ask that, when it came to like starting, I chose to do my own shipping. I do my own shipping. My living room is definitely the warehouse and packaging. Got my mom on shipping. That's what she does. That's her job. My mom's retired now, so I just have to cut her a check she's part of the company. My brother is also the president. He definitely is number 2 to me when it comes to the company. He is whatever I don't know, he definitely knows. You know what I mean? If he wasn't he's currently in PA right now, he's working from home. But he's normally down this way, but I would have definitely had him on here to kind of talk on some detailed questions if they did come up. But we do all of the shipping from home, and great thing I learned is so crazy. 3 years running, I learned how to ship during the pandemic. That's something I didn't know. You know what I mean? But at the same time, when it comes to running a brand, you also learn you don't have to do everything. You know what I mean? Like, that's so time consuming and sets a lot of people back, because a lot of people get so busy with they get so busy that they kill their business. You know what I mean?
How many items are you shipping a month on average?
Per month right now, we're averaging about, I'm going to say 2,500 items.
And
Yeah.
it started with T-shirts and hoodies.
Started with t-shirts, merged into hoodies, hats, dad hats, sweatsuits. Finally, it's just an overall process. But yeah, even now we're getting to more merchandising, which is it's like you really, like, if you don't. One thing I've learned is that I have to continuously keep evolving. You know what I mean? Because there's so much when it comes to this stuff that a lot of people are interested in. You know what I mean? People just love opportunity. Everybody's not outside wearing hoodies and sweatshirts. Some people are driving and they just want a sticker on their car that says "My God" versus "My enemies." Yeah. You know what I mean? Some people just want signs out front of their house instead of saying Biden for president. It says God for God for president. Oh, my God versus my enemy on their lawn. You know what I mean? So it's learning that, like, we're constantly in a space of evolving with that.
Yeah. So Body of God is the company, but My God versus My enemies is the most popular item.
Funny thing is, I didn't get a chance to correct you guys in the beginning.
Yeah,
Body of God is the Instagram for the company. That's what we started off. Another trademark thing I learned. Yeah. Body of God was a company I started. And then I LLC'd it, which at that time, like I said, I didn't know. Mm-hmm. I thought you LLC'd it. I thought, the state would be like, no, somebody else has this. No, that's false. They'll let you LLC your company, but does not mean that it's trademarked. So then when I went to trademark Body of God clothing, there was like, oh, there's a fitness company called Body of God. I was like, oh my God. So I can't do that. So I changed it to Covered by God clothing.
Oh, so got it. So are there any more slogans that are coming down the pipeline from the brand?
Yeah, absolutely. We have the They Hated Jesus too, which we ended up trademarking. Also, another thing I learned, you don't have to trademark everything. Mm-hmm. That's realistically, you don't have to trademark everything in when it comes to this clothing apparel company. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, there's certain things that are going to hit. Certain things are for a moment. You know what I mean? It just depends on you, how far you want to take a certain item. You know what I mean? Because no matter what, people are going to copy what you're doing. Like how can you really stop? If big companies like H&M are, well, I think H&M's still open, but they're producing items that look like Gucci. You know what I mean? Like, how do you stop stuff like that? You know what I mean? At this point, like, for me, when you put so much energy and focus into that, you kind of like move away from the purpose. Like, my purpose with the brand is to still be able to pour into our communities and partner up with the different nonprofits. You know what I mean? That's the real goal for me.
So marketing, that's the biggest thing, right? How were you able, because 2,500 items a month, that's a lot of merch that you're moving. So how were you able to move it from one t-shirt to selling 2,500 items a month? What was the marketing plan?
I just learned marketing. Keep it real. 100,000. I didn't know that outside of so when I first started, I was out the house at 5 a.m. in the morning, back home by 3 a.m. in the morning, because I was like, I'm going wherever. I'm like, follow everybody. You doing a book signing here? I'm pulling up. What's up? Got this merch for you. I was very hands-on with making sure I was networking with every single person. Whether you are a rapper, whether you're a pastor, whether you're an influencer, I'm pulling up on you wherever you are. That's I would call that the
guerrilla marketing.
Guerrilla marketing. I say I was going to use that term today.
Yeah. So, I mean, you are the street team. When you pulling up, you're just giving the merch away, right? Are we charging people at this point?
That's originally. That's still, even now to this day, give it away is still like that's my personal slogan when it comes to the merch or finances. We're giving it away because you can't hold on to this stuff. You can hold on to it all you want, and you could be stuck with it during the pandemic. I was definitely pulling up and just giving it away. Like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you'll pull up on people, security stops you, and they're like, nah, fam, he don't want it. I'm like, all right, cool. What's your size? I talk to the security guard. What's your size, bro? I said, I got one of these hoodies for you. They're like, yeah, it's all good. And they like give me their address, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna ship it to you. What's your phone number? Take the phone number. Next thing you know, I text them like a week later. Did you get your? Yo, good looking, bro. Yo, we gonna be at what you call it if you want to pull up, and I'll make sure. I'm like, all right, cool. So it's like consistent. Like you always gotta like do the homework. I'm not taking no as an answer. If you feel like the artist or the celebrity or the influencer or that pastor's not gonna want it, cool. Or anybody who doesn't want it, I'm gonna find a way to get it to you regardless.
What you just said was extremely important, and I don't want that to go what people said, because I remember going back to Mike. We was in LA years ago, and we was trying to get into a club, and we were knew the promoter, the DJ. All right, so you're trying to get into the club, right? The first person you think of is the promoter. Second person you think of is DJ. You might even think about bottle service girl if they, pretty popular. Mm-hmm. You kind of just run it down from there, right? And he told me something that I never forgot. He was like, he's like, you know who the most important person is in the club? And I'm like, who? And I named all those different people. He was like, the most important person is security. The person at the front door.
Front line.
Because they and you go to clubs all the time, you pay security to get in. Like security, they really control, and it's like stuff like that. And Sam Rothstein said that in Casino. He said the most important person in Vegas was not the big bosses and all that. The most important person was the valet parker, because they knew everybody. They was like the conduit. So a lot of times with networking, we look past the most important person. Yeah. Like you're trying to get to the celebrity, but his security is a person that you can talk to, right? It's like you're trying to meet this person, but why not just start with their driver? Yeah. The driver sees them every single day.
They know where they're going.
Exactly.
and I haven't even actually finished the book. I don't know if you guys read it, Third Door.
No.
But that just talks about like, and specifically they bring up the club. They use the club as the example. Like there's the front door that you walk in and you get online. There's the VIP entrance, and then the third one is by any means necessary. If I got to come through the kitchen, if I got to come through the back door, if I got to come through the back door walking in, whatever it is you have to do to get in these rooms, you have to use that third door no matter what. So once I figure out, like, that's always been part of my, like, game plan and trying to make sure I get stuff to people, is figuring out what the third door is. You know what I mean? Yeah. First door is walking up on somebody. It's like, you know what I mean? You know where they're going to be. You pull up. The second one may be like, oh, I have a family member or a friend that's cool with them. The third door is, man, I see that's their Uber driver right there sitting across the street, and be like, look, I came downstairs and I was told to leave this bag for just let him know we left it in the car for him. Next thing you know, my card is in there, my Instagram is in there, and I'm getting a DM from XYZ like, thank you, got your merch. I'll tag you in it when Now, on top of that, I've also opened the DM door, because the DM door is not hard to there's that third part of your DM where you have all these requests sitting from different people.
Plus 99.
Once they've responded back to you, now it's free flowing conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, you in the trusted circle. Once the first response.
Now you're in the general. Once you get to the general, you got a chance. You got a chance.
General population.
Absolutely.
You got a chance. So, I mean, I'm sure your days as being a party promoter have helped you with the security part, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So who was the first, I guess, celebritant that you saw wearing the merch that really took it off? I know Envy wore, but was there somebody before him, or was that the transition?
Envy was the first one that really had me. Like, I saw it and I was like, yes.
So let's talk about that. Because shout out to Envy. He's an EYL alum. Did you know that? He came on our show.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I remember. Like, I actually now just remember Mike sent me a message after. He was like, it's crazy. I got Envy on here before you. I was like, yo, that's what shot for, bro.
Yeah. Shout out to Envy. Him and Caesar came on, and so yeah. I mean, obviously, being on the radio every day. And I was seeing him wearing that. I didn't even know what it was. I just would see him wear it
every day.
So how did that come about? Because all it takes is really one really powerful influencer to really change everything. If you really think about it, we see that with Diddy and Ciroc, a couple different scenarios we can name. So how did that come about as far as like getting Envy involved in the situation?
Yo, you know the crazy thing is I give Envy one shirt, right? Shout out to my homegirl.
Just like, did you know him or?
Oh, party promoting,
okay.
one door. It's all part of Plan A.
Yeah. See, full circle.
Party promoting, I'm always booking Envy. You know what I mean? I was always booking Envy for different clubs. So we had like, if I had to call out relationship at that point, I was probably in his like M list of friends. You know what I mean? I'm on level M at that point. Just like, it's just really business. So it's just like, I hit him up and I had his number to hit him directly. And, sometimes you try to maintain rapport with people just for the sake of like business, like so you can be like, as a party promoter, you can talking to your friends like, yeah, I was talking to Envy today. They're like, you was talking to Envy? This is talking like 10 years ago though. Like when Envy was just like the DJ on the radio, and when it was like, before even the Breakfast Club, it was just like, we had no Envy for mixtapes.
Yeah.
So and things like that. So I gave him one shirt, and then he would wear the one shirt like numerous times to the Breakfast Club, to the point that I remember one time I saw that like the shirt had a lean on it. I was like, nah, yo, I gotta get Envy another shirt, yo. So then I had that eureka moment, and I was like, oh snap, what if I asked Envy to rock out with me and kind of like, even partner up for like a percentage of the company or something like that? You know what I mean? Let's see what we could do. Then I also remembered that one thing I said, like, you cannot, if God blesses you with something, you can't make a decision and just say, all right, cool, I'm giving it away, or I'm doing something without moving first with God. So I prayed on it, right? Prayed on it, went to sleep. That was a Thursday. Friday morning, 6:30 a.m., phone rings. It's my friend Charisma. She works very closely with Envy at the time. She's like, yo, Envy said, hit him up, and just to have a conversation about working with you on the brand. And I was like, yo, that's all God, because it was just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
So in that same token, like just, pressing that conversation with people is that like thoughts, the same conversation everybody knows, thoughts become things. Like what you think can manifest.
The power of the mind.
Once you start vibrating on a higher level, you know what I mean? If I sit here, I feel like I totally could manifest a meatless burger coming to me right now, because my brother probably went to the store and was like, yo, I bought 2 sandwiches, just because I think things. Sometimes a lot of these things come to fruition. So that's kind of like how me and Envy's partnership began from then on.
Dope. And so, yeah, I mean, I like that. That's another thing too. You can't be greedy in business, and it's like you see an opportunity to bring Envy on as a business partner. Like, why not? Obviously, he has a huge platform, and he can help grow the brand just wearing it, and then also promoting it with his celebrity friends.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we think too small minded, and we want like 100% of something, where it's like giving away a part of it to grow it actually makes sense a lot of times.
Yeah, and it's humbling too. Did ego ever come up in that relationship? Because at a certain point, I felt like, damn, this is Envy's company, because he was wearing it so much.
Never. I never had an ego situation when it came to that. People would be like, yo, that's Envy company, right? I'm like, yep, that's Envy company. You know what I mean? Being the face of a company is cool, but it's like, and when you think of like, and I source everything back to faith, it's just like when you ask for an anointing from God on anything, like just know, like, there are blessings that come with certain things, there are curses that come with certain things. Like it's you have to be able to deal with both. You know what I mean? So being a face of a company, then it's like I have to deal with people. I don't even consider myself the face of the company still to this day, because even to this day when I come on podcasts and I go on different shows and people are like, oh, you're the person. The first thing they say is, oh, that's the one Envy always wearing. But I'm like, it's fine with me. Like, the biggest thing is more the message to me than anything else. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when I see the excitement, I see people who say to me, like, oh my God, I saw somebody walking down the street with the My God versus My Enemy. I was having a terrible day at work. And the brand itself allowed me to just feel like I know my God is going to be victorious. And this was a Muslim woman that was talking to me. So we didn't have a conversation about religion. It was just mainly about the message. So being the face of it really never bothered me. Now, I think I had when it comes to ego, I try my best to minimize my ego in most situations. The hardest thing about ego is usually amongst family. That's where ego sometimes plays a part.
So what's the vision of expansion? Like how? All right, so you have the merch. You're moving a lot of merch. 2,500 items a month is a lot. So at what point it's gonna be bigger than just your living room? Like, right? Have you thought about that as far as like, at what point are you not physically able to ship 2,500 items or have 2,500 items come to your house? And like, what's the next step for the brand? Is it things outside of merchandise, or is it just different things within the religious sphere? Is it something that might be non-religious, secular clothing? Like what's the vision going forward?
Well, we do have for me, there's a few things that are in play, and just a lot of times it's just like making sure that you're in alignment with your team on it. But at the same time, it's like sometimes as a leader, you do have to make decisions. And for me, one thing that, we have different shell companies in place that have not actually, like, when I say that in the sense that these are smaller companies that are like basically babies of Covered by God clothing. You know what I mean? They will deal with faith. They will deal with politics. They will deal with, like, these certain conversations that are uncomfortable that makes the brand more an opportunity for people to speak on it without having to speak on it. That's the biggest thing. I think we do have a production company that's come from this. We have Covered by God Films, and I do have a short film that came out because of that. And that came out through the company that's actually won like Holly Shorts, a bunch of the different short film festivals. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, the great thing about it is that, like, everything from film to acting, from film to the clothing to just what people would call an influencer this has all been like merged into one thing. It's because all of this is still the plan A. You know what I mean? Like, but with the company, like, once it does get bigger, which it's big enough to move to a specific warehouse. The goal is to have my own Tyler Perry situation. You know, I do want to have a space where we have the brand working out of, and I want to make money with my friends and family. You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing. Like, if I can empower everybody around me, that's the biggest thing. Like, I have friends that are clothing designers. One of my best friends, we went to high school. We have the film company together. And he still has his film company, and we merged together. It's just an opportunity for us to all shine. And one of the biggest things with the company is just, once we're all empowered, like, we're unstoppable. You know what I mean? And that's just what it really comes down to. Like, I want I think a lot of people separate themselves they isolate themselves because of the need and desire to be the main person. You know what I mean? I'm not sitting around. If Envy wasn't, like, Envy's like my mentor to an extent, because I watch him. He's so busy. He's always like ripping and running, but he creates a balance between everything he does. You know what I mean? So for me, that's a big motivation for me. It's like, I'm learning to be a better businessman because of this company. But in the same token, I get an opportunity to, I have downtime now. Like, you know what I mean? Because I have other people working with me. I'm sitting around here memorizing monologues, writing scripts. So that's like, the next thing for me is definitely another clothing brand out of this. And then also educating people about, one of the biggest things is to be able to educate people within our company, and not within our company, within our community. My goal is to educate people within our community how to start clothing brands on their own. You know what I mean? It's not the hardest process in the world. You know what I mean? Once we're able to, everybody's so focused, like, it makes people uncomfortable. Like, I have a lot of friends who had clothing brands that felt away because the brand took off the way it did. But I'm like, yo, we can all eat. You know what I mean? What you know can help me, and what I'm learning can help you. We can all push each other in some form or fashion.
What would you say the most important thing that you learned as far as, like you said, you want to create a program to help people? What would be the biggest thing that an entrepreneur that wants to start a clothing brand needs to have figured out?
I think the biggest thing that is I think it's like really learning, creating a step-by-step process for it. You know what I mean? I haven't actually mastered it down on paper. I could, which I'm working on in this downtime. I haven't actually written it down. But to create the process, like where people are learning, like, what's the first steps? Like, you don't have to jump out the window and create this grand big website and buy and do tons. Like, it can start from, I can start in this room that I am. I could email somebody, have them create a design, send me back a mock-up, and then after that, I can put it on a website. It doesn't have to be a big Shopify website. They can start with a big cartel website, and then you can start to like generate things. But one of the biggest things is just like, the biggest thing that I tell people is, don't be afraid to say I don't know. That's the biggest thing. If you're gonna learn anything in this business, be open to saying I don't know, and somebody is definitely open and willing to assist you. No matter what, because somebody poured into me, I don't mind pouring into people. That's what it really comes down to.
Yeah. So your journey started with your parents wanting you to be a lawyer or a doctor. You went to school for theatrics, became a party promoter. Now you own your own clothing line. Mom works for you now. What's her thoughts now that you've turned this thing? You've proven yourself. What's the reaction now from your mom?
My mother she old school. She gonna still keep it. She's not gonna say, like, I'm never gonna hit her like with the I'm never gonna hit her with the told you so. I've never hit her with that. But she, on the other end, still probably is like, she does it all the time. She's like, so have you decided which one of these companies is going to be your 401k plan? What's your retirement plan now? How much money do you have saved up? What are you going to do when are you going to get married? Is your clothing company going to facilitate your wife and your children? I'm like, Ma, one step at a time. One step at a time, Ma.
Shout out to mom. That sounds like a mom. Yeah.
Sure. Ladun, right. It's been a pleasure. But yeah, can you tell the people the social media, the website, all of that information?
All right. So coveredbygodclothing.com is the website. We even, another thing we purchased was the My God versus My Enemies.com website. I mean, so you type in My God versus My Enemies.com or Covered by God Clothing, it's going to bring you to the same landing ship. Something people should know, just in case you have a design that's more popular than your actual company name at some point, you might as well
get the domain name.
Get that domain so that they link to each other. Then the actual Instagram page is Body of God, and mine is I Am Ladun, and yeah.
The man, the myth, the legend.
I appreciate that. Troy, housekeeping items?
Yeah, shout out to everybody on patreon.com. That is our Proud to Pay program. Y'all know we have 5 tiers there. Each tier has a different function. The top 2 tiers, 4 and 5, will get you access to our online school, EYL University, which has been going crazy. We've been putting out so much content on there. We're not slowing down. So everybody that's been part of that, all our earners, we appreciate you and we love your support. And shout out to everybody that is in our private Facebook real estate group headed up by our brother MG, the mortgage guy. That has been absolutely amazing. We got our book club. He does like 2 to 3 real estate webinars a week, man. It's really incredible. It's growing at a tremendous rate. So we appreciate all that support, y'all. Keep going.
Yeah, and don't forget the code EARNERS for 40% discount to EYL University. EYL University is on fire right now. Everything, book club, movie club, weekly webinars, private real estate Facebook group, and we're adding stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. And don't forget assets over liabilities. That's all merch. That's all merch. And then EYL University line as well. So yeah, appreciate it. All right, guys. Thank you guys for rocking with us. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.
My graduates from my school being Forbes, bag drop.
Bag drop.
A mic drop, bag drop.
Bag drop.